One thing we realized after living here for a couple of years is the lack of connections to the backyard. The backyard was almost untouched at a point. So the question that we kind of keep on asking ourselves is, how do we make that physical connection as well as visual connection to the backyard? And that's where the project started.
Just imagine that you've just spent the afternoon out with your family, making memories at the park. You open the front door and walk into your home that's already spotless, vacuumed and mopped to perfection. That's the beauty of the D-Bot X5 Pro Omni from Ecovacs Robotics. This is a pretty smart robot. It navigates around little dwellers' toys, our furniture, and even keeps an eye out for our bunnies. While its advanced AI means it can identify and revisit even the toughest stains until it's clean, and the true edge mopping arm reaches every edge and corner. Messy dinners are a lot easier now. We simply schedule the X5 Pro Omni to do a vac and mop while we continue on with the nighttime routine. The Omni station takes care of the dirty work, literally, washing the mop pads, drying them, and emptying the dustbin. And as a minimalist at heart, I appreciate the design that fits so perfectly into our apartment. For me, it's not just about the spotless floors. It's about the moments I get back to spend with my family. We're no longer spending hours during the week and on weekends doing a vacuum and mop when our robot can just take care of that. The D-Bot X5 Pro Omni truly makes life simpler and better. And isn't that what we're all looking for, especially heading into a new year?
We came across this house in Studley Park. It was a Peter McIntyre house. I remember I walked up the stairs and saw the beautiful elm tree display on the living room window, and it's amazing, and that really blew me away. The house is immersed in landscape. On the street, to the living room, as you walk in to the courtyard, landscape is all part of it. When you pull up in front of our house, you will see the original Peter McIntyre building in full. It's a beautiful kind of modernist house. As you come in through the front door, a flight of staircase take you up onto the ground floor. When you come up is the living area, and the living area has a full view to the north, to the elm tree that we love. And in that room, we pretty much tear it down to the bare bones and resurface every part of that house. It's part of the restoration process. We didn't add our spin to it. It's more about restoring what the original Peter McIntyre design was. We upgraded the roof, we put double glazing through all the existing windows and make it become quite a livable space. As you progress through the house, eventually you end up in the kitchen and dining area. And this is where you start to realize the work that I have put into this house. It has this massive void that becomes one of the, I suppose, the architectural statement that houses the staircase as well as the original rafters, which we kept to humanize the space by lowering it down while you are sitting in the dining table. The original master bedroom was so small and so pokey, and we want to have this expanded space that allowed the room to breathe. The room also has that amazing view to the courtyard. I told myself many years ago, after traveling to Japan a few times, I need to buy one of those soaking bathtub, the timber one. And I did, and it's a beautiful crafted piece that sits in the ensuite. And when you open the lid up, the smell of the cedar infuses the bathroom so dramatically that it transports you back to like a Japanese onsen. The whole idea of the house when the original family that engaged Peter McIntyre is to have a courtyard house. And to us, a courtyard house actually makes sense in Australian climate or in Melbourne climate because you can easily adapt and open up to have the house breathable and cross ventilation. Every part of this house have a view to the courtyard, and the courtyard opens up and it becomes part of the indoor and the outdoor connections. When it comes to designing the landscape in this place, we have engaged mud office. Comparing to what it was before, the courtyard, it was completely paved, and now it has plants growing in actual soil and tree growing in the courtyard, and it transformed it into a completely different spaces. On the way to the extension upstairs, we go up the new staircase. I want it to almost like hang in space. I don't want it to feel heavy because it is in the view from the dining table to the backyard garden. And it still needs to be quite transparent. As you go up, we have intentionally direct the exit of the staircase to the view of the entire backyard. And that's when you get the full view of the entire garden. You can see the terrace landscape, you can see the dining level, native plants, as well as the swimming pool. As you walk along towards the rumpus area, the view eventually opens up to both the north and the south. And that is where the bifold doors open up, as well as the drawbridge on the south. And then there are two of my kids' bedrooms that faces to the north. The challenge, of course, is how do we deal with the steepness of the site. The landscape at the back was terraced, but the challenge becomes how do you then connect the house to the landscape itself? And that's where the idea of that drawbridge comes in. When the drawbridge opens up, it connects to the backyard, and that link of upstairs extension becomes both connected to the old part of the house as well as the new landscape, and that is what I feel most proud of. Core architectural idea for my work, adding on to the original Peter McIntyre, revolve around how do we still keep the McIntyre principle while having my own spin on things. The first thing that comes to mind is the central courtyard and how my extension can benefit from that courtyard, which is also part of connecting to the courtyard and the landscape. When we are upstairs, this connection still exists, and I think that is where it started. Modernist architecture has this simplicity to them in a way that building dimensions are modest, and because of that post-war era where materials are scarce, architect has to utilize off-the-shelf items, and that's where I think the original simplicity thing or the idea of simplicity can come from. And when I did this house, I started to think about how this notion can be carried through. This house has been finished in a way that it almost has this raw sense of material. Everything has been stripped back to quite an unfinished surfaces, almost feel like a warehouse. I think that is how simplicity comes in. A lot of things that I've chosen in this house were off-the-shelf items, off-the-shelf building materials, put in a more architectural way. When we open up the courtyard, we can actually feel physically like the cross-ventilation. The whole building is breathing. It's almost like the lung of the house. And because of that air movement, and now that the backyard opened it up, like the whole thing just become like this open area. The most amazing thing is when you're upstairs looking to north, you can see the landscape of all my neighbors, and it changes throughout the season. From upstairs, in the foreground is our courtyard, and then in the background is my neighbors' trees and plants, and you have no choice but to engage with it whenever you're upstairs. And I think that's the beauty of that whole living through the season. That's what people call living in landscape.